Maybe give me a little bit of background on you, and then saw your form and things, but then we'll jump right in.
We do probably 60-40 split, I would say, in the maintenance things and then call it construction, lump in their plans and things like that. But we do stuff, we'll do $1,000 patio all the way up to $130,000 hardscapes. And then we do, you know, spring cleanup to fall cleanup, everything in between. Um, and we sell those as like maintenance packages, either 8 or 12 month. But we still also offer, a pay per visit style, we call it. So get a little bit of cash flow coming in winter. Um, as far as snow, I hate snow. I really try everything I can do to avoid it. It's just not lucrative and I want to spend millions of dollars on giant equipment, which I have interest in. So trying to find a way to increase stuff through the winter wouldn't be bad, but that's kind of where we're at as far as winter. Do work full time as a firefighter as well, so 8 hour a week, two 24-hour shifts, so two a week every week. I'm not present. Um, and that's the last 3 years we've been a million to 1.2, 6 to 7 guys, one. My wife was doing the office stuff, but with the two kids now, I have a outside company. I use Belay for an office manager, and she's great. But I would definitely rather have someone in house, um, like you, where you are. Massachusetts is ridiculously expensive for any sort of space. So finding, like right now we have a shop which we pay like 3 grand a month for, but there's no office with it. It's just a shop space and plenty of outside space as well. So trying to find a space that's close or that has both has not been fruitful. Um, but I am looking at kind of trying to. I don't want to call it franchising because there's zero interest in franchising, but maybe having a few locations, near my house, some downstairs of Boston where the yards are, small, and then right in between where we're at now. Um, and just kind of similar style with you running the GM method. Um, I like that. I don't want to say absentee, I still do most of the sales. Um, but my everyday is pretty much run by our office manager or my call him GM, Andy. He pretty much runs everything. So that's, I think, pretty much covers the gist.
Cool. No, that's awesome. Um, are you trying to stay full-time firefighter for now? Like that's not like you're trying to get out of that.
I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I really don't like the job. I've been doing that for years. It's, 48 hours a week to, be up all night doing ridiculous medical calls and fire calls and accidents and stuff. It's fun. The adrenaline's great, but for 65 grand a year, just so I can get a pension when I'm 57, you know, is it really worth it? We really just use it for the benefits right now. And working at a union is not for me. Not a fan. Trying to disband the union in there. They don't like me so much, but whatever. Um, so if I could get this, a little bit bigger, bring in some health benefits, that kind of stuff, that'd be the ideal goal. And then to step out of there, because I have noticed since I started that job, my drive for this has been diminished because you come off a 24-hour shift, like all you want is go to bed. You've been up all night. That would be the end goal, I would.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, how can I help? Uh, one quick question Joey. How long has the business been in started? Like, did you start it and when?
I started it 2015,
Got it.
and
Okay,
that
cool.
was kind of just my first year I made 3 grand. In the second year, I made 50 grand, and I was renting a Lambo. I was a rich guy. And then just
Did you really rent a
no,
Lambo?
no.
Oh.
I was like, you know what? If I make 50 grand this year, I'm renting a Lambo, and I'd made like $54,000, and I'm like, I have no money.
I love it. Cool. What can I help with?
So I guess the first and foremost question I have is the PFA stuff. I've been trying to get after that for like 3 years, and I just can't. So I'm on NN, and I just can't see how to make the two work cohesive. Um, and I'm in and out of Copilot twice now, and I don't get Copilot. I don't know why, because it's clearly a far more simplistic CRM than LMN, but I've been on that for 5 years. So for me, I like the back of my hand, but at the same time, to now implement it with the P for P, it doesn't, it just doesn't work that way. It's much more difficult, much more confusing because if you look at the analysis, my aeration jobs, the guys are making $187 an hour, but the mowing jobs, they're at $76 an hour. And so, you know, do you have some way to make that work? And if not, I want to get into more questions about how I can get myself into Copilot as seamlessly as possible.
Yeah. So first off, in terms of like aeration, for example, for what we do, because you're 100% right, the treatments and applications and are going to be way higher rate. So
Yeah.
what we do is we just assume that 50% of the revenue is not labor revenue. It's either product cost or just simply like the cost of renting a piece of equipment because you use it so infrequently. And so we assume all treatments and applications are 50% labor revenue, 50% product cost. So if you
Okay.
take 180 and divide it by
Yeah.
two, now you break down that 90 and you're in a better range. And I don't mind it
Okay.
being a little bit higher revenue producing because it's a higher risk to the guys when they get yellow slips for things like
Yeah.
core aeration of like knocking someone's irrigation head.
Yeah. Okay. Um, so that stuff's all fine. I'm just trying to think, is the way that you can now translate that to the the P for P software that it would work.
Yep.
You
So
know, it,
basically, yeah. So basically, there's a couple ways to do it. One, so first off, there's two pieces of this. I kind of look at it as two parts. One is like P for P,
yeah,
and then two is if you actually use Copilot, it integrates and brings all the information over
yeah,
automatically, right? But like, let's just assume for now you're not going to switch to Copilot because I think
hmm
staying in Element is probably actually a good move for you right now.
yeah,
Seeing the fact that you have $100,000 projects,
yeah,
and you know it so well, I'd probably stay in that for now.
yeah,
And then there's a little extra manual stuff you'd have to do numbers into P for P,
hmm
but I think it's still going to be beneficial. So, um, in terms of what you would be putting inside of like, do you do budget hours on like all your jobs, Joey? Like projects
everything.
and
I think it's
perfect,
tracked.
perfect. So then you just simply have to make sure that when you do budget hours on certain services like Coration, the
Yeah.
budget hours you can look at it two ways. One, half of the revenue is considered, but is labor revenue like we do,
hmm
or you can just consider it that the hourly rate is just so much higher,
Yeah.
right? Like your
Yeah.
target hourly rate to get the budgeted hours.
Yeah. Because you're not aerating. I'm not sending the stinger out there for $50. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. And the bottom line is like you want your budget hours to be accurate. So
Yeah.
regardless of the customer's paying, I want the budget hours to be accurate.
Yeah.
So that the crew gets in the habit of like looking at the beginning of the day, seeing, okay, 6, 7, 8 budget hours are my schedule. I'm
hmm
gonna get them finished. And then they're trying to go after it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That makes a lot of sense. So since we're kind of on the P for P Copilot LMN thing, in Copilot, one of the problems I had, and when I was talking to Christian, he's like, "Oh, when you sign up, you can have a meeting with Mike," and I'm like, "That's great, but I kind of want a meeting with Mike now." So that's why I scheduled this. Um, the Obviously there's no sort of price. I don't want to say matrix, but like a pricing list. Like I have every one of my suppliers, and this isn't like SiteOne integration. This is the Northeast Landscape Supply Yard that's right next to my shop, and everything we buy from them, everything put in there. There's, I don't think there's something that in Copilot, at least not yet. Was something that I was, I guess, call it lazy. I was like, I like having it there, and trying to streamline these things would make it more difficult for me to do that right now. Um, when you do jobs and you have materials for mulch or whatever, are you just still pricing whatever, say $90 an hour, and that mulch isn't included in that price? Or are you doing 90 an hour and then slapping on, $50 a yard for mulch plus a month on the mulch, or are you just charging for the price, the cost of the product? I couldn't figure out how that worked,
Mhm.
having everything separate.
Yeah, so we simply are calculating the price before putting it into Copilot. What you're talking about is what we call estimate components that down the road
Yeah.
we gotta add. And that's a big reason why like bigger projects, I usually say, hey, just stay in LMN for
Yeah,
now. Because they nailed this part and that's the estimate components you build, click all the stuff you want and it builds out the job.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So what we do is we basically are doing that inside of an Excel document. So we have like all of our pricing, we have all
Yeah.
of our cost of goods, etc.
Yeah.
And then we just put in like, okay, 4 yards of this one, 3 yards of this one, 8 yards of this, 48 hours, boom, price. Then we put it into Copilot. So
Okay.
that's the extra step that we have to do for big projects right now. But we are
Yeah.
absolutely keeping hours and material separate because ultimately on
Okay.
P4P, they are only getting a percentage of labor revenue. So material
Yeah.
markup is
Hmm.
completely taken off the table. And that's important because like when you want to raise prices, for example, you actually
Yeah.
have to ask yourself, do I want the crew to make more money, i.e. increase the labor rate per hour,
Yeah.
or do I want to increase material markup, estimate fees, dump fees, because that's going to go in your pocket.
Yeah. Because that's the problem, every business owner who pays guys hourly, like you've run into in the past, is, it's I mean, Jesus Christ, it feels like every week they're like, I need more money. I need more money. I'm like, you don't need, what have you done to earn more money? And I've tried doing things. Hey, get the door hangers out. I'll pay you compensation for that. We'll pay you compensation for upsells. We'll pay you compensation for bringing new clients and bringing employees. And they don't do it. They never do it. You stay on them for 3 weeks and then you let off the gas for 1 second and then they drop the whole thing out there. So trying to get on that is because around here it's like if you're not paying 25 to 27 bucks an hour for some person to go weed whack, you're just not going to get anybody. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, like
Um,
the positive thing is, Joey, you've done actually the hardest part for most project companies, and that is you figure out budget hours across the system.
yeah,
Like that's the majority of why bigger project companies can't move into P4P is because they're like,
yeah,
well, we kind of do it based on linear feet or like cubic yards. As long as you have budget hours, like it's not a hard lift into P4P. And what you could do is just run the numbers even in the back end inside the
yeah.
software without telling them. It'll take you like usually a minute or two per employee per day to do it
Okay.
manually because there's not the sync. But
Yeah,
you just create the time card based on what they've punched out wherever else you're doing it, put it in. What's cool about P4P with your project now that you have budget hours and everything, they can crush budget hours. Like the
yeah,
ability to make a lot of money on P4P actually comes from projects because you have a 300 budget hour job that can get
yeah,
done in 200 and they like
yeah.
crush it. So
Yeah, for the projects, I haven't really seen much of an issue bringing it over. It's more of the maintenance stuff I've had an issue with because, like I said, we can have the same, our elite package, which covers everything from starting up the irrigation, doing the spring cleanup, all the way to the fall cleanup, shutting down the irrigation, the mulch, aeration, overseeding, putting all that stuff, monthly bed mates. Is now getting, is there a way to create almost like a card for every client, or would I have to create like a new card every week for the service provided that week?
okay, I'm assuming you're talking about the fact that like they're on 12 and 8 month contracts, so you don't know. Repitch that to me because you're cutting out in and
So,
out of the
okay,
audio a bit.
yeah. So every job we go to, they are clocking in and clocking out. Visit every job. So every single job has its, say it's going to take, we do 27 weekly mowing visits here. We only do weekly. We don't do bi-weekly. We don't touch. They're going to clock in and out 27 times and say it's going to take them a total for the season to mow 14.38 hours of budget hours to mow. And then some people lag, some people we don't. Is there a way to make a specific time card for the season and just run off of that, or we need to make that time card every week that fit for the half hour of time? I don't know
Yeah,
if that even
so
makes sense.
you're good. You're good. Basically, I think what you're saying is like the fact that you're kind of spreading out all the revenue over the course of say 8 or 12 months, but
Yeah,
you do have budget hours per visit, right?
correct.
And then you can look at a day and see, okay, this crew completed X amount of budget hours. Like you can just add up the budget hours.
Yeah, yeah,
So realistically, it doesn't really matter how 8 month or 12 month because like they're not making any percentage of that. They're making a percentage of labor revenue, and labor
yeah.
revenue is simply calculated by budget hours multiplied by your target hourly rate.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
as like you're doing the hardest part that like literally very few people that do 12 and 8 month contracts will actually granularly look at budget hours per visit and
Yes.
be able to say at the end of the day they complete X amount of budget hours. As long as you have that, like you're golden.
Yeah. We have LMN is great with that. It's one of those things. If you use the software how the software was supposed to be used, you have no issues. It's people trying to get in and make it work for them, like anyone says. But like I don't hate that. I think that could definitely be done. I guess we can move more towards the business side of things, not the financial side. Is
Yeah, and the maintenance,
you know,
the thing with the maintenance with
yeah,
P4P is the reason it has such an impact is because like there's way more waste every time they have to start and stop, as well as
yeah,
multiple line items on a contract. So I've seen this a lot of
yeah,
times. The contracts, once you do get them into P4P, is better because like right now they're kind of like, okay, or what are we doing today? They're going through the contract. They have multiple visits or multiple services on one stop. So, I think you've done all the legwork to actually institute P4P. And then what I would just beware of is if you're running the math in the background on P4P software. Usually, once
hmm
you actually start paying them based upon P4P, you see about a 25 to 30% increase in efficiency. So the
okay,
reason I say that is because some people are like, man, I did the math and they're like making $1 more on P4P. It's not going to work. But then they institute it and all of a sudden they're making $5, $6, $7 more per hour. So just keep that in mind. We usually see that on
yeah,
average, that 25 to 35% bump.
yeah, because that's an issue I've had is I have some guys who are great, awesome, and they deserve more money, but then I have those guys who drag it. So, um, I guess we'll stick to the employee part before I go into other stuff. Is do you have what? I cannot find a guy that speaks English. It's not happening. I'm sure you get this all the time. And right now, luckily, I have Andy, who is from Colombia. He speaks perfect English, perfect Spanish. But the influx we're getting here is a lot of like Brazilians. So even Andy's like, I can't even really talk to them, and they're good workers, they're nice guys, but it's how are you going to build a culture if everyone can't communicate? And that's an issue I've been having. I mean, we have I think a really good culture. All the guys get along, they laugh, they goof off, they have fun, and they work pretty. Um, do you have any advice as far as a better way to deal with that, or should I just stop hiring people that don't speak English?
It comes down to being able to afford it. Like you're gonna have to pay $4 to $5 more per hour to tap into an audience that would
Yeah,
otherwise go get like a low level trade job, like
yeah,
entry level HVAC or something like that. So
yeah,
um it really comes down to I think like institute P4P, then be able to with the numbers go confidently in the marketplace, knowing what you can actually afford to pay. And if you can
yeah,
say, hey, now we're offering $30 an hour as our base, and
yeah,
guys are making 35, $36 an hour mowing grass. Now you have something.
yeah,
It is like the lame out, but it is the only way. Is like just raise prices and,
yeah,
and make enough money to where you can go in a different level of employee.
yeah. Okay, that's kind of what I figured. Figured I'd ask anyway. Um, So at the company now, like I said, the last 3 years we've been, just sitting around, call it $1 million because I can't figure out myself which direction do we want to go? Do we want to go the Mike Andes route and do we want to make, these very profitable smaller organizations, or do I want to go, the Tommy Mello route in this $25 million landscape company that has one location and we do all the projects, and second one's great. Sounds super fun. To me, it sounds terrible. I love the simple stuff. As much as I want to sit excavators and my bobcats and, run around, I just don't see it happening, especially where I'm competing, we get Teamsters everywhere. I'm competing with the laborers union and they're paying $60 an hour. So I'm not getting any better realistic wage that will allow me to price myself into the market. And you can't teach somebody who's got papers to run those machines. So I definitely think I want to transition more to your style model. Do you recommend at this point me looking at getting that second location off the ground, being at that $1 million mark? And like I said, the last couple of years I've been somewhat absentee as far as the headaches we have is rock goes through a window. Okay, so we call the carpenter, he goes over and fixes it, or they do a burnout mark in the grass.
Yeah.
Oh well, kind of things. Where do you recommend for that? Where do you think I should start as far as that goes? Because I would love to have a location. So I'm about 20 minutes away from my shop now, about two towns over. Um, you know, so I'd love to have something more close to my house,
Mhm.
maybe as a second one, so I can, keep my hands on it a little, or get that my feet wet in an area that I'm close to.
Mhm.
So I guess I'll let you go.
Yeah, like what I would say is the kind of the safest route in my opinion would be start the second quote unquote location as simply expand service area. And all we're
Hmm.
going to do in that area is focus on the simple services. It's going to grow
Yeah.
slower, but you don't really care because you got your other thing doing its deal.
Hmm.
What's going to happen is if that actually starts growing, let's just say it's charging 400,000 or 500,000 in maintenance, and it's really simple services, and you're hardly there now. Then what's going to happen is like, okay, do I start a third one? Or like, what does it start looking like? And so then what usually happens is you'll have to simplify the first one. And so like Andy
Hmm.
right now can kind of manage everything, but if you said only Andy, you'd probably have to remove two or three services that you get pulled into all the time, whether that be the Bobcat stuff, excavator, whatever it might be. And you would find those holes over the next 12 to 24 months as you're starting the second location. Like, what are the
Yeah.
two or three things that Andy can't handle? And then I got to nix those things. And then I'm probably going to pare that first location down to like 900,000, but be a little more simple services, less equipment. But Andy can handle literally 99% of it. And I
Yeah.
think to do that move, it's gonna hinge on a solid admin person.
Yeah.
So right now, if you had a solid admin person thinking about admin, he's your ops guy. You still operate as sales. You move into the new market as kind of like the sales spear. You just
Yeah.
are sending leads to the admin person. They're doing like normal. It's not going to be much of a lift for them. And then you don't break it off though until you have like two solid locations and you're ready for
Yeah.
the first one to go basically absentee by simplifying. So like, I wouldn't do that fast. Some people go, like, hey, I'm gonna tear the band-aid off, gonna go from 1.2 to 600,000. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Like you're there enough. It's not like you're trying to do anything super fast. I would just
Yeah.
know that when you want to move along, if you're gonna do multiple locations, you're gonna probably have to turn the revenue back a bit, but then simplify the services that like I would just literally document anything that you have to get pulled into.
Yeah.
And you probably know the two or three things already.
Yeah. And like I said, Andy really does most of it. I mean, he's kind of like he runs the construction jobs. I'm really more pulled in if it's, something changes with the client. The client says, "Hey, I want to add this area to the project as well." And Andy's like, "All right, well, I need to talk to him first before I start doing this because I need to make sure you're okay, whatever the price is going to be and any of that stuff." As far as services go, yeah, definitely any locations again are going to be like build job is going to be, I think, it's not going to be, the crazy stuff we do now. Is the first, call it the original location. I'm fine bringing that stuff back. I would still probably keep a small construction crew, but we might not do the pool installs and the big stuff that just takes a lot of manpower, takes a lot of admin, a lot of communication with suppliers and vendors.
What you could do too, Joey, if you stay regional, and I see some of you our locations doing this with chemicals, is they're like, hey, we don't want to get chemicals, but what we'll do is we'll start 3, 4, 5 locations with maintenance only, and then we'll get one truck or like one
Mm,
crew that does all of it now. Because there's enough now of just like organic demand, we can immediately send an email and you fill up a crew. And so
yeah,
you could also just do it with your project. So say, for example, if Andy's like, I don't want to do maintenance my whole life, and you know he's an awesome operations person. Okay, great.
yeah,
You're going to operate from location number one is going to be home base. It's going to be where the office is at. It's going to be where we do big projects. We keep all the shop storage, etc. The other satellite locations are going to be GM ran. They're going to be simple services, and they're just going to be profit cash cows. But the project crews can go into those markets and grab all those
yeah,
leads.
yeah. And that's kind of exactly what we talked about because we do want to, start. I used to do the treatment stuff, and then when I kind of came out of the field, I got rid of it. It was just too much to just hand it off to somebody else who just didn't know anything about it. But we went to bring that back, and that was kind of my plan. Like that is, we got a Wilmington location, a Westford, a thing, or whatever. All three of those locations, then we have one pesticide application crew that just goes around and does all of those. And that's kind of my thing. So you think, just run it as an expanded service area now, and then once say the $500,000 mark, whatever, you break and get a location, a hard location in that area.
Yeah, like what you could do is you could say, okay, you're gonna kind of be the this. Did you watch it on Home Service Millionaire channel recently about the GM thing? Last week there
Maybe.
was a video. It's an hour and a half long, and it walks through like finding a GM, how to start one from scratch, the compensation model for them, all of that. I would
I don't
recommend
think I
that.
saw that one. Yeah.
Basically, what I think would work because you've already focused on sales. Like you start the location, get it to 500,000. You
Hmm.
then in that process are hiring people, et cetera. You're going to try to take one person that's been with you for
Yeah.
12 months or so, make them the GM. But now they don't need to have tons of experience like Andy because they're literally just doing mowing and maintenance.
Yeah.
Andy's bopping into their territory to do the big project stuff. They don't have to worry about it. But then as
Yeah.
soon as you hit that 500,000 level, you're looking at maybe 2 or 3 trucks, 4 or 5 crew members. They can manage them. It's low lift for that general manager in terms of
Yeah.
operations, and you're going to raise prices. And so you're going to make that location do 700,000, 800,000, but very profitable, simple services and ran by a general manager. That's the copy paste
Okay.
model, right? And then
Yes.
if you want to keep Andy and like the first home base being the, hey, we are willing to travel further because we are projects, we can travel an hour if we need to,
Yeah.
no problem. Great. That's high margin. You increase prices when you hit capacity, and you'll get more and more leads from all these other locations. And either
Hmm.
make it you could make that a big one, like maybe that grows to 5 million
Yeah.
in projects, or you just make it absolute cash cow. Like you just keep raising prices
Yeah.
only.
Okay. Because I am gonna be like he's kind of project. I plan to make him a general manager. He's far too wanted to be left doing the work. Um, so bringing him out is definitely the number one plan I have. So whether to leave him there, I'd prefer to leave him to run the main location just because there is projects there and he can keep on those. And then like you said, hey, if he's gonna come here and do whatever, or you know, hey, you're in charge of this, I'm hands off as far as the Billerica location I go. But you know, Westford, those two guys who come up here do the mowing, the bushes, or whatever, that's gonna be my issue to deal with for because I like to get to the point where it can make him a regional manager and, you know, get him paid some real money. Because right now he's a salaried employee. Um, so he's making just under 70,000 a year. Um,
Yeah, and
and
like you just break it off. You
uh,
break it off when two things are true. One, there's enough revenue to warrant a GM, and two, you find a good GM, right?
sure.
So the challenging part is finding someone who's actually going to get the location up to 500,000. That person is so hard
Yeah.
to find. I recommend the owner usually do that and then
Yeah.
just pass it off. And then you just make it a system where you know what the pricing is, you get everything up and running, you hand it off, and then the
Yeah.
handoff is easy because you're not requiring this person to grow the business. It's like, hey, leads are going to come in. We're going to just try to replace churn. We're not going to be marketing. We're going to raise prices
Yeah.
if you hit capacity and just move on.
Yeah. You, what are you recommending? So, if I take 100 grand, you think that's a good start for starting up a location?
Yep, if you're doing simple services and you're starting with a
Yeah.
100 grand and you're not getting debt, like to be conservative, it's gonna take 3 years. By
Yeah.
the time you get, because like the first year you get to say like even 15 or 20,000 a month or 50, 25, 30,000. If you're doing simple services only, that's a lot of customers. You're probably
Yeah.
talking 150 plus. Then
Yeah.
year two, you're going to be really probably solid, like 350, 450. It's that third
Hmm.
year, you usually get above 500. And then, okay, great. Now it's time to find my general manager. And then I'm not going to grow this anymore. Because as soon as you get above 6, 7 trucks or eight, 9, 10 employees, it
Yeah.
becomes you need Andy's caliber of person to run the
Yeah.
location versus just
Yeah.
having 5, 6 guys. They can even 4, honestly, you
Yeah.
can and make it really profitable.
Yeah, because a lot of times when I've watched coaching calls you've had with other people, they're doing 3, 4, $500,000, and they're like, oh, I got 8, 9, 10, 11 guys, and I just can't wrap my head around that, because we're running $1 million and we're doing 6 guys. So I'm just, granted they may only be doing full services, but I just still don't know where that money's coming because on that note, like this last year, probably in my opinion, our worst year yet, where we just broke 1 million but we only did like 10% profit. But we had a tough year with just all new guys. This is the first time I've ever had a whole team of guys that couldn't communicate with. Things were getting broken, things were getting lost, guys were dragging ass, taking too long to do stuff. So, getting the right people in, and that's really kind of what put the fire under me to switch to the PP is the guys I had the last 3 years prior were great. I could kind of set it, forget what they were fine. I didn't have to watch them. I didn't have to tell them to work fast. We were doing 15 to 18% net profit every year. And all of a sudden this last year we dropped down to like 10.24% net profit, which to me is not good. You know,
Yeah,
that's
like
whatever,
I'd
that's
say it's
50 grand.
yeah, I almost say it's like you could potentially start to market in the second area just
Mm,
to pick up some mowing customers, but like you have to have location one in P for P because as soon as
yeah.
you move out any more than you currently are, just expect that to get worse. Things
Yeah.
break more, guys show up late, it just gets worse and worse.
Exactly. And I knew that you guy to bring that up too, because I'm sure you've dealt with it. Um,
Like if you can get
yeah.
them to be all super money motivated, because then what happens, Joey, is like once you leave, you institute profit sharing. Because now
Yes.
you're like, hey, anything over this dollar amount, because like you're thrilled to have a 10% distribution if you're never there. But then
Yeah.
anything above that, like needs to go to them, there needs to be incentives. And so that would be like step one is P for P. Step two is we've got to have a incentive program in place for location one. And then I'd be like, yes, now you're good to go leave because they're now thinking constantly about efficiency and profitability.
Your employees break stuff. Do they pay for it or do you pay for it? How do you guys work that?
Yeah, so you basically have your base pay $20 an hour, and then every day they're getting a percentage of the labor revenue, right?
Yeah.
All the whole pay. Do you do weekly or biweekly pay periods?
Weekly.
So then every week, basically at the end of the week, you say, hey, look, guys, I'm going to pay the higher of either $20 an hour or whatever you made on P for P, the higher of the two. Now, if let's say P for P is $950 for the week, their base pay is 700. That means there's $250 of what we call performance dollars on the table for yellow slips. Yellow
Hmm.
slips are going to be damage cases. It's going to be callbacks. It's going to be anything that you
Okay.
could like. That's money on the table. But I'm never going to go lower than base pay. That way, from a legal
Okay.
perspective, you're not actually taking money away from them. You're taking away their bonus.
Okay. I like that. Because like I said, we had issues last year with
And
guys
honestly,
breaking.
even if it's $1,000 repair, and you're like, man, there's only $200. That $200, them knowing it's on their paycheck, like it's
Yeah.
enough for them to slow down, look one more time, not run over stuff. Like just having a little bit of pain is helpful. Like I don't want to penalize
Okay.
them. I don't want to. It's just a matter of like I need a little bit of pain, so they look twice. They
No.
they take an extra
Yeah.
second, you know.
No, because 90% of the time they're great and there's no issues. You do have those
Right.
times where you don't want it to get out of hand. Um, how do you recommend I explain this? Because we all have worked with, you know, Hispanics, for lack of a better word. All they quote is how many dollars per hour will you give me?
Yep. So right now, are any of them above $20 an hour?
They're all above 20 mil.
Okay. Like 25, 27. Is that where most of them are
25.
at?
Yeah.
Okay. I think you're making a lot more than $89 per hour. If you just run the
I
math, yeah, like I think it's probably more like 110 to
Yes.
120. And so
Last year was 107
yeah, so I think if
between maintenance and projects.
yeah, I would probably do like 100 for maintenance and 120 for projects
Okay.
as what the target hourly rate is. Because if you go where you're talking now, like the budget hours are gonna get all inflated. And just
Yeah.
simple math of knowing like there's only six guys working, you made it 1 million, like it's almost
Yeah.
impossible. So I would use 100 and 120
Yeah.
to like run the math. And the reason I say that too is because I need to get the 25% rule, which is the base pay. I do not want it to be more than 25% of the hourly rate to the customer.
Hmm.
And then you could theoretically do $25 an hour base pay. And I
Okay.
think in your market, you're going to need to do that in order just to attract a decent worker.
Yes.
So then what you can say is, hey guys, like the $27 hour people, that those might be a little harder of a conversation. And
Yeah.
inside the P4P university, the training, it walks through how to convince those people. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to run P4P and what they're currently doing at the same time. And you're just going to
Hmm.
give them, hey guys, we're going to try this new thing. I'm going to give you a percentage of all the labor revenue you make for the day. And at the end of the pay period, I'm going to show you both of them and you get to choose which one you want. And so you just make sure you've done the math on the back end to know, okay, everything's lined up for this project. We're good. We're gonna make a lot more money on P4P because they can crush this
Okay.
job. So
Okay.
to make it really simple, all you want to do is them to choose 2 to 3 times in a row of P4P versus base pay.
Okay.
And how you explain this is like, do not get in the weeds of yellow slips. You say, hey guys, I'm giving you a percentage of all the labor revenue on this job. I'm also giving you $25 an hour, and we keep track of them the whole week. At the end of the week, you can have the higher of the two.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
And if you had to, Joey, if you wanted to like, hey, I want to roll this out, I want no friction. I would just say if there's some people at 27, just lock them in. Just be like, hey guys, I just want everyone here to make more money. I'm gonna be tracking how much you earn for the business, and it's gonna be a third, let's just say 33% of all the revenue you make for the business. And if you want me to show you the numbers each day of how much you're going to make, I can show you that too. And at the end of the week, I'll just give you higher of what you're currently making versus that.
Okay.
Your hope is that your killers go for it, and then you're able to literally let go of your lowest performers and let these guys make 35 bucks an hour.
That's kind of where we're at. And I've already started doing that this year. I already lopped off 2 cancerous cells. So, um, okay, I like that. And the yellow slips thing. How do should I wait to enter that kind of system to them? Because
So
I've
then,
definitely brought that out because we need to have a better system for these repairs.
yeah, totally. So how you pitch this is like in their best interest all the time, right? So you say, hey
Yeah,
guys, it's not fair that some people make tons of money here because they go super fast and make all sorts of mistakes. So
yeah,
what we're going to do to keep this fair is if someone's going super fast and making mistakes, any mistake if you make a mistake like a skid mark, you got to go back to the customer's property. You're not generating more revenue. So it's actually a pretty easy system to keep track of in terms of like
yeah,
just callbacks. It's the damages that you have to explain. The damages
yeah,
where it's in a negative dollar amount, and it's only if you're negligent. If you are, shoveling and the shovel breaks, who cares? But if you back over the shovel, you're paying for it.
yes,
And
exactly,
and
exactly.
you pitch this in a way because everyone when you're in a meeting thinks they're the highest performers. They are like, yeah, like it's not fair that other people work really fast and make more money. That's not fair.
Yeah,
And they make all these mistakes, and then you just institute it from there.
right. I love it. Um, on when you guys do estimates, you probably I don't know if you or not. Like I have in the MN because of the Moore's overhead style, which the multi overhead, which way above how it works. But you know, you guys include the price of the truck mowers and the weed whackers. That's included in labor revenue and the
Yeah,
$100 per hour.
we keep it simple, mostly because yeah, I understand multiple overhead recovery, and like
Yeah,
I want to keep it simple for my crew so I can literally show them how much money they're making today, and they can just do the math in their head of I divide
oh
that number by three, or like so we've moved our prices up, we've been able to move our P for P down to 25%, right? So
yeah,
they can say, okay, I'm making $1,000 a day. 25%, $250 I'm making today. And then in their mind, even if you're not synced up with Copilot, because in Copilot they can actually see live like how much they're making.
mm,
They have a track of like as they complete jobs. It's kind of cool.
yes,
But like if you keep it simple enough and you can just share all the information with them. And this is what leads into down the road open book management and profit sharing. Because when you're doing profit sharing, you got to be able to share the numbers. Otherwise, they don't
yeah,
trust you. And
yeah.
so if you can do P for P where it's like, hey guys, I'm actually going to show you how much money we're making. Like, here's all the money you're making today. Divide that number by three or divide that number by four, and
Yeah.
that's how much you're making for the day.
So it's just labor and materials. That's all you can figure.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Otherwise, you're trying to explain to them about
Yeah,
mores. Like, good luck.
yeah. Which I couldn't explain it to them. I'm just this is how it works.
Well,
Okay.
especially like if they can't speak English, we're not gonna be able to do
I just
that.
yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I know. I wish you guys would. I hate LMN. I hate how great their estimating functions are. I get a lot of complaints from my buddies who use it, but I love the scheduling aspect of it. I think
Yeah.
it works for. Other than that, it's like one of the most overpriced software in my opinion, and I can't stand it. Your software, I love everything about it
The
except
estimate
for
components,
the
I
the
know.
estimate
Yeah.
component.
There's a few parts, even like one part I really like about projects. I don't know if they have it in Element, but it's like where you have Gantt graphs. So like on big projects that are 6 months long, you kind of have a graph. And it's like more of a
Oh
project
yeah,
management tool.
yeah,
Like that's the type of thing that we need to do for bigger projects. But that's why I always say like if someone's doing over $50,000 projects consistently, Element's still kind of the way to go.
yeah, yeah. That's stinks. Like I said,
But
I think
but
I've
but what I
signed
would
it
say,
twice.
Joey,
Yeah,
is if you do P for P, like what will happen is by the time you have that integrated and you're ready to kind of like split it off and like it's really dialed the P for P side, then you probably be ready to be able to move into Copilot with the estimate component side of things, and
yeah,
then those will sync, and then that way like
yeah,
the synced port is so nice because then what happens is you don't have to do any sort of manual entry. It does it all for you because it's pulling
yeah,
over the amount of budget hours. It's pulling over every customer as they come through. As the guys complete jobs, they see how much money they're making per hour, so they always want to finish late into the day
yeah,
because they don't want to go back to the job site the next day. Like it's
yeah.
it's good.
Never mind all the automations that it has that I love. It's the same reason I think Jobber is better. Yardbook is an LMM when it comes to a lot of this stuff. And Yardbook is
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
definitely, definitely. Okay, how long do we have here?
A few more minutes, you're good. Go for it.
Okay. No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I guess other than that, if my guy spoke English, I don't think I'd be having any of these issues. It's just like you said, finding the right guys, and I've found some, might be from Massachusetts, but I'm not politically correct. I've had white people come in and they want to, man, I want, and I'm like, get out because that's not how the real world works. Go get a government.
Yep.
It's just, so it's been just very difficult to bring in those people who, are great people. I love them. We have barbecues, pool parties, all kinds of stuff with the guys. They love it. We take for steaks and all that fun stuff, but it's just so difficult. And the thing that gets me the most is if a client come, they want to ask them, there's nothing they can do. And the client obviously, gets up, so you guys don't speak English, blah, blah, blah. That's the hurdle that I'm trying to get past is, I'd love to keep these guys, and I've even tried doing, I've told them, hey, I'll pay for you to go take English lessons. Once you finish those lessons, I'll give you another $2 an hour, whatever it is. So they don't really want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like honestly, money talks, and like the big convince is get them on P4P, because once they learn P4P, the leverage you now have is the more efficient they are,
Hmm.
they actually make more money tomorrow. Like
Yeah.
this week you will make more money if you're more efficient. Now
Yeah.
they actually like then we started having optional meetings that they didn't have to come, but they could show up and we'd actually go over it. Here's a more efficient way of doing this. Like pack your lunch. Here's like the
Yeah.
5 things that a top performer does. And then inside the software, they see the leaderboard of who's making the most money. And then when you're recruiting, now you literally pull that up. It's like, yes, our job ad said $25 an hour, but here's a leaderboard. Someone last week made 25, 20, 26. Yes, they were just starting, but here's the guy who made $40 an hour last week mowing grass.
Yeah.
That's when you start being able to pull in the best talent. And it just changes the dynamic of things.
Okay. All right. I'll do that. You do that week or
Pardon?
the optional meeting, is that an every week thing?
And you won't be able to do that until they're all above base pay, and they're all
Yeah.
like super motivated by P4P. But like there was a guy last week, he worked, he wasn't even full time, but he did $70,000 out in the field as a like we had a screenshot of his W2, sent it to the team and stuff. So like that's an average of $35 an hour if he was working full time.
Yeah.
And so once you start having like evidence of that, you start framing stuff like that, then people walk in, you're like, hey, this is
Hmm.
what so and so made last. Here's we have the leaderboard of P4P software just up on the board because they can see the top
Yeah.
three. And like, yeah, so right now, and you just literally can list it live and like see how much money people are making. So
Okay.
and then that way too,
Awesome.
anyone, someone comes like, I want more money. You're like, well, let's step back for a moment. You're getting paid as same as everyone else. And over
Yep.
there, he's making $15 more an hour than you. Maybe we hang out with him. Like, what is, oh, he
Yeah.
gets here, he's out of here within 5 seconds. He looks at his job notes the day before, he asks questions the night of, like, then you have
Yeah.
so much evidence. Like, I've never had
Yeah.
anyone from the field ask me for a raise since I instituted P4P.
Yeah. Oh, let me ask you this question for probably the millionth time. Maintenance stuff, shop maintenance. What are we doing on that?
So it's called manual adjustment. So basically, if you think about like P4P moving up as stuff gets
Yeah.
completed, well, when I have them doing shop maintenance, what's happening is P4P is not moving, but
Yeah.
their hourly rate is. So all I
Yeah.
need to do is manually adjust P4P. So for example, they're at the shop, they do 2 hours worth of work. I'm going to do a manual adjustment to P4P to equate 2 hours worth of P4P time.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And
I guess.
and that they down the road they do it all in the app. For now, if you wanted to, Joey, you could just do it in
LMN
like a
tracks there.
Yep, perfect. Yep,
The
and
time.
sometimes for
Yeah.
shopmates, sometimes they'll do like even just like a clipboard. They put their name and how many hours, and you sign
Yeah.
off on it or something like that.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, because like I said, every time they're not clocked in, they're clocked in time. If they're at the shop doing maintenance, they're clocked into maintenance time. If and then 3 towns over pick up some stone, they clock into material pickup and things like that. So we kind of have them broken down into a lot of even the unbillable stuff we track a lot of. So um,
Yep,
I don't know how you can charge if you don't track. So
yep.
awesome, awesome. I think that's all I really got for you.
You got it, man. Well, we'll stay in touch. You have a great day, Joey.
Thank you, brother.
Okay, take care. Bye
Bye.
bye.